Hey there, I'd just like to ask before the video starts, if you like what you see, please give us a click on the like and subscribe buttons. Welcome everybody, I'm Karl Wells. My guest today is a musician, an entertainer, a singer, and believe it or not, his group, his band, has recently celebrated its 35th anniversary. They've been performing and entertaining Newfoundlanders and Canadians and other people around the world for that many years. And I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome one of the original members and one of the best known for sure to the program today. Welcome, Con O'Brien.
Thank you, Carl. It's a wonderful pleasure to be here.
It's delightful to have you on the show. Con, let's do, as we often do on this program, talk about your early life. What was it like as a young fellow growing up in beautiful Bay Bulls on the southern shore?
Well, Carl, I grew up in a very interesting place. My family's in the fish business. We had fish plants, and when I was born in 1966, I'm 59 years old now, my father ran the whale plant in Dildo.
Wow.
So I spent the first...
Times
have changed. So I spent the first, until the moratorium in whaling, which was, I think, was 1972. I would have been in the summertime over in the whale plant, watching them, dressing down whales. And then my father took a job with a Nova Scotia company called H.B. Nickerson's, and he looked after all their plants in Newfoundland. So I was in Charleston and down in Bonavista Bay, and so as a child, that's my thing. But then he went back home to work with my grandfather, who I'm named after. And they had been in the fish business extensively for a long time. So by the time I get to be a young 8 or 10-year-old, I'm growing up on the floor of a fish plant, and so I had a kind of a very interesting upbringing in that way.
You had so many experiences when you were a young fellow then. I mean, you could almost write a book about all of that, all of the places you visited and the different things you did.
Well, the people.
Yeah.
When you have a plant with or several fish plants with hundreds of people working, so you know all those people. Yeah. That's the community. I miss that because we came together in the plant. Everybody knew each other. Everybody was together, and your goal was to work and put the fish through. You had to get the fish, which meant that you had to go from community to community, and way beyond Bay Bulls to get the fish we were buying. In my time, we were buying trapped fish from Bali in Conception Bay, right around the peninsula, right up to St. Shots, and almost every little place. So you had people there working for you, buying the fish. You knew your customers that were buying the fish from, the great families that you met, and those connections still remain for me because we were buying crab from the Port of Gravemen. We were up in northern Newfoundland buying herring. I spent 2 summers in Labrador in the crab fishery.
Wow.
That was really just pre-moratorium. So I had an interesting point of view watching the fishery. The last generation to have been involved in the cod fishery, in the inshore cod fishery, the way it was, and I had some very interesting people around me all the time, and that made for a very interesting life.
When I was growing up, my grandmother in Gambo played the button accordion.
Yep.
And that's a memory that I have, but you must have been exposed to a lot. I mean, coming from the southern shore, you must have been exposed to a lot of music down there.
Well, there was music in our house. My mother's from Petty Harbour, and the Doyle family, Allen's crowd. They were next door neighbours. I have an uncle who's 76 years of age right now, still plays with the Doyles. He's probably 60 years playing. So music was came naturally enough to us on both sides. My father was a great accordion player. I had my uncle Neil was a great piano player. So that was, you know, that what comes by nature costs no money, so they say. So that was easy enough. You know, I had an interesting grandfather. My dad's father, who was Con O'Brien. He was good friends with, I don't know if you remember Miles Murray.
Yes, I do.
And Miles was the MHA for Fairyland. And Miles' brother, Pat Murray, they had a place down at Murray's Pond. And back then, Neil Murray would have been involved with putting together the folk festival and was deeply involved with a band called Figgy Duff. And I can remember, you know, 10 or 11 years old, Sunday afternoons down to Murray's Prom while Figgy Duff was out rehearsing in the backyard. I was there. I got to see that. Oh. My grandfather took me to New Orleans on a trip to bring the car back from Florida.
Wow.
Went to see Figgy Duff play in New Orleans. And
amazing.
So things like that were lucky. You know, I was exposed to. You know, he liked to get around to watch what was going on in that group. So we go to the Carbonear Folk Festival and St. John's Folk Festival. I just did the last. Well, it won't be the last, but what they're pegging could be the last evening at the folk festival. And I kind of like said to myself, I was here 49 years ago, watching different people, watching Kelly Russell, watching Jim Payne, and saying to myself, oh, I'd love to do that. I'd really love to do that, and I got the opportunity. So. It's really interesting, and you know, necessity puts me in that position. In '92, when they stopped the cod fishery, I was destined to be, you know, involved with the family business, and that was my goal. I was going to university, had a little band going, and that little band, you know, started to have some success. So for me, I was very lucky and fortunate because, you know, you had the big mass migration of Newfoundland men and women who had now no opportunity with the fishery anymore and had to migrate to, you know, Western Canada, southern Ontario. We lost 40,000 of our people. And I didn't have to leave. I did have to go to, you know, to spread the music across the country, but I was playing to those people. You know, Fort McMurray still today. I'll make 3 or 4 trips to Fort McMurray this year, and you know, it was something that pulled the rug out from underneath us. But you know, when there's an opportunity, you take it. When you have lemons, make lemonade.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm curious. When you were a teenager in high school, if I could look at the LPs that you had in your LP collection when you were a teenager, what would I find?
Oh my goodness. People will always say, I'll always say I never wanted to be in an Irish band or not a folk band. I wanted to be in a rock and roll band because that was the cool thing. Back then I was listening to a lot of heavy metal.
Oh.
If you ask me what my favorite album of all time is, I'm going to tell you it's an album called Sad Wings of Destiny by Judas Priest. And we were listening to, you know, Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and, you know, good heavy rock and roll music at the time. You know, I lived in Bay Bulls, but I went to school in St. John's. But on the weekends, you know, we'd have the dances, and we were all listening to, you know, the music of the day. And we were at the pool halls in Witless Bay, Tommy Kent's or Lars Smith's, and the jukebox was going, and we're all learning to play guitar in our pool cues, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's you know, but I also had the other side of that. You go over to my grandfather's house, and there was classical music, you know, big collection of classical music, all of the Carlton Show Band type stuff that, you know, we'd go to those shows. I remember, I can't remember what year it was, but they bought the Chieftains in to Memorial. Probably in the early 70s. I wasn't very old.
I believe it was, yeah.
And my grandfather took me to that show.
Wow.
And so, you know, I was immersed in that kind of music early on. And my cousins, the boys with the tour boats, especially Loyola. Loyola was a big fan of Irish music. He was hanging out with Dr. Barry Martin's family and children. And Irish music was a big part of that. So, you know, that was one of the things that I kind of gravitated to both sides of that. And when you had people like, you know, running around the house, and Brian's Fancy would be there. Be over to Barry Martin, Brian's Fancy would be there hanging out. I got to meet them and they showed us that music was sexy, it was cool, and we could play our music and the world would like it. So that's one of the things we learned from them.
What do you feel, Con, is the lasting legacy that you've taken with you from your childhood and youth in Bay Bulls?
Well, I think just being yourself. You know, I remember there's a couple of key people in my career. Sam the Record Man is one of the key people in our success. I met Sam in a airport in Halifax with our first record, and we had sold 16,000 records out of the back of the car, really. And one of the things that was a big part of that was that Sam the Record Man's in Atlantic Canada had taken the records and for distribution. And I met him in this thing, and I casually walked up and said, "Hello, Mr. Snyderman. My name is Karl O'Brien with a little band called the Irish Descendants from Newfoundland. I'd like to thank you for putting all of our records in your stores." He looked at me and said, "Young man, don't thank me. I'm making money from you." And that developed into a friendship that lasted till the day he died. But I learned a lot from that interaction, and he was the one that was instrumental in us meeting every, fundamentally he got us our record deal because he knew he could call up the presidents of every record company in the country, and he introduced us to them. The other one was Zosky. So when we signed the deal and we go in, and Zosky wasn't on about, he wanted to get to the root of what you were doing, and it wasn't that it was something that you're doing. It wasn't what he said to me. I'll never forget it. He said, "What you do is not contrived. You're just being yourself." And that's what Sam said. He said, "You sell yourself. Don't change anything. Just be you, because that's what the people want. That story, where you come from, where you, the people, the place, and what you've seen. That's what they want to hear. Those stories, and they want to hear songs about that."
So was there one particular piece of advice or one particular live performance that you saw during your early years that made you think, "I have to do this. This is what I have to be. This is me. This is what I'm meant to do"?
We were over in Nova Scotia, and we would play back in the early days. We'd play 2 weeks back to back downtown at the Lower Deck, and then on the weekends, of Saturday nights or Saturday afternoons, we'd do the universities. So we're up in the middle of Dalhousie campus. I believe it was one of the universities, and no, it was actually down in Woodville, down at Acadia. And I'm come out, and after the show, up in the dorms, I could hear them singing Sam Hall. We were loading our gear out, and I said to myself, "Holy Moses!" That made it made me realize they're liking this.
Yeah,
this is something and then that gave me I guess the incentive to say that's cool. That's something that the kids are listening to. And then you had other influences, like back in those days, there wasn't many bands touring across Canada from Newfoundland. But one band that was doing it was the Thomas Trio and the Red Albino. And they were going off to universities from here to Vancouver and back, promoting their brand of music. I said, we could do that. And so we had some people who gave us a great support. Fabian James was the guy that gave us a lot of support. He was involved with COCA, which is the society or a group that all the university entertainment people that would come out, and you go to the COCA showcase, and we get up and do the Rattling Bog, and that was it. It was something that gave us a head start and kept us going, and ultimately kept us in the business, and it's been 8,000 or 10,000 shows since. So and I'm not stopping yet.
No, you're not.
Take me back to my western boat. Let me fish off Cape St. Mary's, where the hagdowns sail and the foghorns wail. With my friends, the Browns and the Clarys, let me fish off Cape St. Mary's. Let me feel my Tory lip to the broad Atlantic combers, where the tide rip swirls and the wild dogs whirl, where old Neptune calls the numbers, neath the broad Atlantic combers. Let me sail up Golden Bay with my oilskins all a-streamin' from the thunder squall where I hauled me draw, and my old gay man a-gleamin' with my oilskins all a-streamin'. Let me view that rugged shore where the beaches all glisten, where the capeless fun, where from dusk to dawn you bait your trawl and listen to the undertow a-hissin'. When I reach that last big shoal where the ground swells break asunder, where the wild sands roll to the surge's toll, let me be a man and take it when my dory fails to make it. Take me back to that snug green cove where the seas roll up their wonder. There let me rest neath the earth's cool breast, where the stars shine out their wonder and the seas roll up their thunder. Sing it with us, come on. Take me back to my western boat. Let me fish off Cape St. Mary's, where the hagdowns sail and the foghorns wail. With my friends, the Browns and the Clarys, let me fish off Cape St. Mary's.
let's talk about the Descendants. Who were the members of the original group, and how did you all find each other, and how did you form that group 35 years ago?
Well, Ronnie Power and I had a band with another young man from Brigus South called, or his name was Thomas Badcock, and we were called Ron, Con, and Tom. A very creative name. And we were playing at Aaron's Pub. When the Sons of Aaron would go on the road, we'd be the band that would fill in. Little three-piece. Anyway, I don't know if people who will remember Ralph, and Ralph is still alive and well, but Philomena, his wife at the time, lovely, lovely woman from Dublin. She's very proper, you know, everything was very proper with her. So she gets a phone call. This is a true story. She gets a phone call, and someone asked if the Condoms were playing down there tonight. And she comes out around the bar and says this, and this got to change. Ralph said, call it the Descendants. So that's where the Descendants come into it. Then, at the same time, Ronnie Power, who grew up with me in Bay Bulls, was dating a young girl from Greats Cove. Her name was Tammy Martin. And Tammy was over babysitting for her sister, who worked in our crab plant in Witless Bay. And that romance led to, you know, a family, and they got together and had children. But she was the sister of Larry Martin, who played with Darcy in a band called Irish Coffee. I get invited to a wedding over in Beta Verde for Darcy's brother, Gerard, and that's where we meet. And it was a natural progression after that. The two of us, and Larry and Darcy Broderick and Larry Martin, we come together. They had Irish Coffee, so Irish Coffee became the Irish Descendants.
And who are the members of the band today?
Today I have a wonderful young man from Waterford, Ireland. His name is Rowan Sherlock. Mm-hmm. Rowan plays fiddle, mandolin and piano. I have a young fellow from, they're all living in Newfoundland these days, but another fellow from Halifax named Jeff Kinsman, who's a wonderful harmony singer and bass player. And I have a crackerjack fiddle player from Allack, New Brunswick. So if you're going through Sackville and Amherst, you know, the big Irving Big Stop, she lives 3 minutes from that. She grew up in a place much like Anna Green Gables, a family farmer. And her name is Madeline Carter, and she's a wizard. So it's I guess that's been the last probably 18 months with that ensemble so far. But going through the history of the band, which I did put together for the box set.
Yes,
there's been close to 40 people have gone through the band, and it's a who's who of mostly Newfoundland players. I've had everybody that you can imagine.
That's quite a bit of turnover
it is
when you
indeed.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Now, what is it that's driven, with that turnover, what is it that's driven the popularity of the band? Because that hasn't changed. It's increased, if anything, over the years. I mean, you're supremely popular. What do you think it is that you're giving people, or what is it about the group? And obviously, you're the constant, but what is it that's driven the popularity of the group?
Well, I guess for the players, and it's interesting because, lots of bands don't survive that length of time. But it's the brand of the band, and what that represents to the audiences is that people come out to have a good time. I can sing my songs and present them in a way that we always tried to make sure that what we recorded we could reproduce on the stage. And they just jump onto it. It's the opportunity to travel and tour. It's probably a little bit more lucrative than playing the bar scene, and it's attracted some of the greatest players in Newfoundland. I mean, I've had Kelly Russell in the band. I've had Dave Panting in the band. I had Boomer Stamp in the band. It just goes on and on. You get wonderful young players. Karl Wells played with me for a good many years. Michael Hanrahan, the Hiscock brothers. Just goes on. And one of the things that's always interesting is that when I come to the situation, call up Patrick Moran. Paddy, I need a fiddle player for such and such a show. And can you play? Yep. And he doesn't have to ask me what I'm going to play. He just shows up and plays. And they all know that they listen to the records. They were influenced by that sound, and that I guess for us, we were pretty lucky at the beginning. We're the first Newfoundland band to get an international recording deal. Lots of records, lots of, you know, that we come in at the time CDs were being introduced. Well, I always make a joke about it now. First Newfoundland band to produce a CD, and probably the last one. People are not buying CDs anymore, but you know, that legacy of the band's popularity continues on. The songs and the people, the personnel who recorded them, you know, different way all the way through. That has changed, other than me. But people come out to those shows expecting a good time, expecting good musicianship, and they get it.
You mentioned CDs. I mean, in your day, and certainly in mine, I mean, we've gone from records to 8-track to cassettes.
That's right.
To CDs to digital recording. What's the state of the recording industry these days?
Well, it's tough. Commercially, recording is a little challenge, because a big challenge actually, because the days of selling great numbers of CDs or whatever the format are gone. Things are now come from the internet. There's streaming, and for artists that's a challenge, because the return is not anywhere close to what it would be when you're selling, you know, actual units. But that being said, you know, I get regular email from a bar in Seoul, South Korea.
Wow.
An Irish bar called O'Kim's. wondering if we'd ever come this way, would we come play? And you know, it broadens that ability to spread your music. But so CDs these days, or recordings these days, are more of a calling card. It's a way to still get the word out on new material, and people are still coming to shows, which is, you know, we go out to Fort McMurray. We'll do 2 sold-out nights at the big theatre there. And it just, that carries on. But it is a challenge for bands that are trying to establish themselves. You know, with the change in times, and you got younger people, you know, what we used to do in a great big studio in Toronto costing $400 an hour can now be done in your bedroom with, you know, almost with your cell phone. So things have changed that way, and with that comes still great quality music. So
yeah, I mean, I've seen 2 feature films.
Yep.
That were shot with cell phones.
That's right. Yep.
I mean, it's absolutely amazing.
We go down the road, and I'm a little bit tech savvy, but not great. But in the social media world, you know, we're doing anything that you can to just put people, or make them just ignite their ear a little bit. And it could be anything. Like, one of the biggest things we did last year was we were in Gander Airport, and I had seen a sign on a Pepsi machine in Bonavista during the Cabot tour, and the machine was out of order, but the sign on the machine said "Give out," and there was a sign on this machine saying "out of order." So for badness, we put a sign up saying "Give out," and took a shot of it, and it went, like, I don't know, 30,000 people saw it.
Wow.
But that gets them talking about us, and gets them looking, who are they? Like, and what's their story?
For sure.
So that's important. And you know, we have this ongoing series of pictures of Madeline. Madeline likes to have a nap in the car. She's a daytime sleeper, and at nighttime, I don't know what they do with her. She's 22 years old, so she's talking on the phone, or there's always on, and they're gone way beyond Facebook and things like that. Things that our generation are looking at. And she has this pink mask that she puts on. And now we've gotten to get pictures of her in all kinds of positions, everywhere, airports, wherever we can get her. Is the series of her pictures. And it's just a way of just getting people to talk about it.
Con, before we go, I have to ask you, I'm thinking about those marvelous 35 years. There must have been some major highlights over the course of that 35 years. I'm thinking about the 500th anniversary celebrations, for example. Just give me a few. Well,
one of the big things we did was working for the Mirvishes, in big theatre show in Toronto, working the Prince of Wales at the Royal Alexander. You know, I've been involved with presidents of the United States and the Taoiseachs Ireland, and you know, we did a thing for Mary Robinson on the Rideau Canal, which was a big deal. They unveiled a big Celtic cross to all the Irish who had died digging that canal, and you know, there was 1,000 Irish people died.
I had no idea.
Doing that. So, you know, those moments, of course, the you know, Bonavista, 1997 was something else. I mean, that was an amazing day. If you remember, you were probably there.
I was there.
You were there. So the rain was going sideways. I think it had snowed earlier that morning. The Queen was in her Hudson Bay blanket, and we got to meet her. Yeah. She comes along, and he's behind her, and the first thing she spoke to me, and she said, "Oh my, you love your voice, and I really enjoyed your song." And that was lovely, and you nodded your head, and you went, and then he comes along and says, "Were you wearing your thermal underwear?" So, you know, those are
as you'd expect.
As you would expect.
Yes.
Yeah, what would you expect? But and that's, I mean, those are memorable moments. You know, and big and small, they've been some fabulous moments, and it never gets old. I love getting up there. I love doing it.
Con, is the box set still available? Or?
It is.
Okay, and how would somebody...
Just go to our website. Just go to the Irish Descendants website and order one. They have them at Fred's Records in St. John's, and it's a wonderful package. I didn't bring one, I'm sorry, but
no, that's okay.
We do have a graphic of it that I'll give to you. But
listen, it's been wonderful having you on the program.
My pleasure.
And you tell great stories. Thanks so much, Con.
Thank you, Carl. Pleasure.
Thank you. Con O'Brien. And that's it for this edition of Karl Wells Point to Point. We'll see you again next time.